Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Welcome to my show. I couldn't be more pleased to have Jake Pavelka in studio. Many of you remember him from his seasons on The Bachelor. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a decade. Can you believe it?
I couldn't believe it. I went back to look at some old footage, and it was January of 2010 that you were The Bachelor. And in fact, without further ado, let's roll just a little bit of video of you as The Bachelor, because I think it's really cool. I mean, we're going to talk about your real estate career here in a second, but gosh, when you look at that young man, what do you think?
I remember shooting those scenes downtown. That's right where JFK
Yeah.
shot. I don't remember that.
There was a lot of topless in this one. We might have to have a PG rating
Right?
on this show. But tell us, how did you get selected as The Bachelor?
My church nominated me.
No
I was going
kidding.
to Covenant Church, and the church nominated me. I never thought anything would come of it, but that's originally in 2008 how it all came to be.
Did you watch the show?
No.
Never did.
No, I mean, I'd seen it. I was familiar with, when I started going through the casting process, obviously I started watching it, but it was Jason Mesnick's season. And then out of that, I can't remember who the Bachelorette was after that.
Yeah.
Somebody.
But then, I mean, it was a whirlwind, because not only did you do The Bachelor, you did Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
What was that like?
Hard.
Was it?
Dancing with the Stars was really hard. Yeah. It's, it was just a journey, in the moment I was saying, golly, this is the funnest thing I've ever done, but this is the hardest thing I've ever done, because I'm not a natural dancer. And I was having to practice 10, 12 hours a day, and so
Wow.
doing that, it's really hard to not sustain an injury.
Well, so I have to tell the story about how Jake and I met. I was having lunch with some friends, and they said, "Hey, do you want to meet The Bachelor?" And Victoria and I are big fans of the show, and of course we watched your season in Dancing with the Stars, and so you and I became friends. And at the time, we were looking to expand our offices, and I said, "Hey, would you become our tenant rep?" And you said yes. But I want to brag on this man, because I was the client from hell, because I was the guy.
Not at all.
I was the guy who didn't like any office space that you showed us, and I'm trying to think now. It could have been a year, maybe more, of you showing us different office space.
Well, sometimes that's just, what it takes to get a space right for a client. That's ESRP, the commercial real estate firm where I practice real estate. That's just what we do. We work with the client, we refine, and then we work, and then we refine again, and what comes out of it is a great office space. In your case, a great studio.
Well, thank you. And I think what I want to say to the viewer is, there were many times along that journey when you could have twisted my arm and said, "Hey, this is a beautiful space, Jeff. Why don't you consider this?" But you just kind of let me do what I was going to do. And during that year, the space became available here at Lincoln Center, and we couldn't be more thrilled with the space. So,
good.
So
makes me feel good.
Well, thank you for being so gentle along the process. So tell me what it is like. A person is engaging you for the first time as a tenant rep. What does that mean first for the people who aren't familiar with the expression tenant rep?
Okay, that's a really good question. One of the things that our company ESRP, how we differentiate ourselves around the globe is we only represent businesses and people who buy or sell real estate. Meaning, You rent space at Lincoln Center, so you have a landlord.
Yes.
We don't represent any landlords.
Got it.
And a lot of companies, a lot of really big companies, they represent both sides of the house. So for instance, this landlord is engaged with Cushman & Wakefield. Well, Cushman & Wakefield also has a tenant rep advisory service. So it's, where is the fiduciary? Is it like, are we
Right.
working for the landlord, or are we working for the, for the tenant?
Yes.
And so that line gets really blurred. Law firms do, that's the first thing they do is a conflict of interest check. I can't believe there haven't been any really big lawsuits about conflicts of interest.
I could see that.
Because real
right?
estate, is typically a company's behind labor or employment, it's the second largest expense. And so there's a lot of liability there representing both sides. And so it's kind of surprising. So that's where we differentiate. We only represent tenants or people that, are looking to rent or buy real estate.
Wow. Well,
No landlords.
You've always impressed me as just a straight up guy, almost like a Boy Scout. Tell me about your parents. How were you raised?
Well, I kind of had a story, but my mom's a nurse, my dad's a doctor. Finally retired at 74 years old, and I had a really good, model in parents. My dad, it kind of made people sick. They go to the grocery store together on Sundays, and he still grabs her butt.
That's awesome.
So, I've watched my dad
Yeah.
court my mom, for 40 years now, and it's really been interesting. Watching how he's cultivated that relationship with her and how he's pursued her, beyond their marriage.
Wow.
And so that's kind of what, I've always brought to a relationship is that same model, where the pursuit doesn't just stop once you get married. It goes, but of course I haven't found the girl that I want to marry yet.
Well, that's probably what everybody's thinking right now. Yeah. Have you just not found the right person? I mean, certainly you've had many opportunities to date.
I have, yeah. Probably the easiest way to answer that is after coming off The Bachelor, it makes dating very hard. You kind of get, whether you want to or not, stereotyped because you're on a show on really a global platform now where you're dating 25 women at the same time, and it's really not. That first night you have chemistry with 5.
Right.
You know exactly who your final 5 are going to be.
Wow.
And then they make the show around the rest of the cast.
Got it. After being a reality star, are you turned off by reality TV, or is it still something that you see as attractive?
Well, it depends on the platform. There's some really cool reality shows. I think The Bachelor's a great show. The most common question, is it real? Do you really fall in love on The Bachelor? You do. I mean, it's very real. The way they do that is they take life away. The only thing you have to worry about is finding and falling in love. They find the 25 for you, and you just find one that you want to fall in love with, or more than one, unfortunately. That's where they get the twists and turns from. But you don't have a boss, you don't have the newspaper, you don't have Bernie Sanders, you don't have Donald Trump.
Right.
None of the distractions, that get in the way of a really good, great relationship. So basically what they do is, it's genius that Mike Fleiss, the creator of The Bachelor, found a model to do this, is the timing for everybody is perfect. And if you know anything about a relationship, it could be the right person the wrong time.
Well, you told me one time, and I may have gotten this wrong, there was a 18-month period where you were on more covers than Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, in
Is that true?
2010, yeah. I beat her in magazine covers.
That's amazing.
It's kind of nuts. The Bachelor was just, social media, Facebook. It was Facebook, and before that was MySpace. I remember from my season, Ali Fedotowsky, she worked for Facebook, and she was telling me that Facebook was extremely concerned about Twitter. I'm like, Twitter? What the hell's a Twitter? Right? But it hadn't been invented yet. I mean, they were just programming that. That was the first, social media app that I had on my phone.
Was it weird to go into a CVS or something like that and then see yourself in the magazine aisle?
Yes. I never got used to that. So I was in Flower Mound. There's a Walmart in Flower Mound that I was doing some grocery shopping. Usually kind of go late because I could get in and get out pretty easy. I was standing in line. I was on the cover of one of the magazines, probably Us Weekly or something like that, and the person in front of me picked it up and said, "Golly, I think this guy's probably the biggest jerk in the world." I'm standing right. They use some more colorful language than that, but I'm standing behind going, "You don't even know me."
Didn't you want to have that moment when you say, "Excuse me"?
Well, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know the person, and it's.
Yeah.
That was probably the most surprising thing about going on reality TV is that you open yourself up to criticism. You invite criticism into your life.
Yeah.
And people are happy to give it.
and I mean, I think they're catching you at your weakest point. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're tired and you've been shooting all day. So, I mean, I admire you for going through everything that you went through.
Yeah. Well, it was shooting the show. So we shot the show from September of 2009. We were done 2 days before Thanksgiving. And then you had a little bit of time off. And then when the journey really started was when we started doing press and the season started airing and America started living this journey that we had a couple months prior.
Right.
In the present.
And then you had total silence. I mean, you couldn't say anything to anybody, could you?
No. My parents didn't really know who I picked at the end, who I chose.
That says a lot for the vow of silence that you took. Well, let's do this. Let's put up your website, because if people have office needs, I want them to be able to get a hold of you and put your website up there. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. And they can contact you through the website. And again, Jake Pavelka, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, this is awesome. I appreciate it.
This was wonderful. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you next time.